Welcome back to the final steps to creating a finely crafted symmetrical bowl from raw wood. We now have a bowl that's waiting for its final fine sanding, but now we give the bowl time to let the internal stresses find their equilibrium. To reiterate, I'm now at my intended thickness, but I have no way of knowing how my carving has changed the net forces within the wood. Therefore, this resting period will allow the bowl to make its final movement to its final shape, after which we can reflatten the rim and the feet if needed. It is seldom that there will ever be any significant movement to the bowl during this period, but even modest movement can be enough to torque the bowl so it rocks when it's set on its top or bottom. Waiting does not mean that all work stops, but instead, this is the time to discover problems and repair them, as those repairs may require some additional coarse to medium sanding. Only after the 1 to 3 week waiting period do we initiate those closing steps. During this resting period, I have several things to do. First, I'll fill holes or weak spots that may be present. Typically, larger cracks and holes will be filled with sawdust and thin CA glue, while smaller cracks and holes get filled with just medium CA glue. I collect and keep an inventory of different kinds of sawdust to use on different kinds of wood, which will be fixed with thin CA glue. I seldom use epoxy for filling holes and cracks because mixing small amounts is both cumbersome and risky. I can report that epoxy is difficult to accurately measure in small quantities, thereby risking problems if the proportions of the rosin and the hardener are not exact. If there are significant cracks, I may stitch the bowl. We use a biscuit joiner and some custom-made biscuits that we've produced from different woods. It's important to secure the bowl and use a wedge that permits the joiner to have a perpendicular approach to the area to be stitched. We find that some people are strongly attracted to these stitch bowls rather than turned off by a repaired crack. Before we do our final 320 sanding, it's time for 2 quality control steps: tactile inspection and intense visual inspection. Eye-guided carving can result in variations in the angle or curvature of surfaces on opposite sides of the bowl. Similarly, our sanding up to now may have failed to erase all the residual marks left by the many tools used to get to this stage, but they may not have been apparent in normal light. Therefore, the first quality inspection is to look at the bowl from a modest distance at different angles, looking for any large-scale discrepancies that our narrow focus during sanding may have allowed to pass unnoticed between opposite sides of the bowl. Repair may require a bit more carving and sanding. Next, with any visual imbalances corrected, I proceed to tactile inspection. The tactile test is merely to caress the bowl. The fingers caressing the bowl on each side will reveal rough spots or irregular surfaces, while 2 fingers simultaneously sweeping across the internal and external surface of the bowl are amazingly good at identifying anomalies in thickness. This is the time to clean those up as well. Larger anomalies may require stepping back to a coarser sandpaper for certain zones, and then brought back to the 220 grit level for the rest of the bowl. The final review is to look for minor flaws that are hard to see in our normal work lighting, but invariably show up prominently when the finished coat is applied. Finding these minor flaws requires an extremely bright light, such as direct sunshine. On cloudy days, I'll use a bright flashlight. The key is to have the light hit the bowl's surface at different angles to reveal different kinds of blemishes. For example, these scratches were obvious only when the light was on the side, so that it barely skimmed the surface. It permitted the shallow scratches to become shaded and therefore become observable. I then mark them for final sanding. Leveling is the last of the shaping steps. We've waited for the bowl's final movement, after which the bowl will typically need only minor adjustments. The goal is to have the bowl that sits solid and stable on top of your table. The key requirement for leveling is to have a truly flat surface on which to work. Our experience is that stone countertops, wood tables, and floors in the home are only approximately level. For us, the flattest surface on our property is the cast iron top of our table saw. This process is very simple. Typically, starting with the top of the bowl, I hold the bowl's rim against the saw so the bowl is resting on its high points, and then press down and slide the bowl's rim against the saw's top. This creates a shiny, darkened zone in the bowl's rim that tells me the exact location of the high points that need to be sanded off. Typically, it takes a few iterations, but the process is reliable and only takes a few minutes. I then flip the bowl over and repeat this several times to progressively remove the high points that prevent it from standing flat. If there is a significant wobble, I may measure the height of the bowl's rim to the table to see if I want to primarily take off material from one or the other foot. The goal is both a flat sitting bowl and a bowl with a rim parallel to the surface on which it sits. Again, as with the top, a few iterations will generally be required, but it only takes a minute. With the blemishes repaired and the bowl standing true, we now are ready to do our final sanding. We only sand to 320 or 400 grit, as I find it hard to see the difference going much further, although I know a lot of lathe turners who take their sanding to 800 grit or more. We will also typically find sand sharp edges on the rim and handles, but this is purely personal preference. Don't forget to do the tactile test of the bowl's ever-smoothing surface to verify progress. Finally, we're ready for oiling. Step 1 is to aggressively wipe off all sawdust from the surface and from the pores in the wood. Some people like using high-pressure air as well. Selecting a finish to use is daunting, as there seem to be as many products on the market as there are woodworkers. For our purposes, we primarily use 3 coats of Waterlox, a commercial tung oil-based finish designed to initially soak deeply into the wood before polymerizing in the wood, and then with each additional coat, build up an external polymerized protective film. Realize that it's nearly impossible to create a truly waterproof surface on a wood bowl. Instead, our goal is to achieve a water-resistant finish that permits rinsing and wiping and then towel drying. This series has gone into a lot of details about the bowl carving process that I believe can expand the bowl making experience for many woodworkers. I stated in Chapter 1 that I found I can carve a simple salad bowl in a similar amount of time that I used to spend on lathe-turned bowls. But let me be clear, I now spend more time because I seek out interesting wood and I labor over the decision of how I will make blocks from that log. I will then take extra time with multiple iterations to first choose and then fine-tune a design to capture special features in that block. This means I have elected to apply these procedures in a more drawn-out process than I ever expended with my lathe work. For me, the opportunities for creativity and extra time I want to spend is a feature, not a bug, of bowl carving. If my goal was to quickly carve a bowl, I would simply take a log, cut it into fairly standard blanks, and then quickly apply a design with few embellishments or complex features, and I would begin carving. Starting with the log at a convenient spot, I might spend 4 to 5 hours of actual work, excluding a log acquisition, setup for each step, cleanup, tool maintenance, and so on. The production time for this simple bowl might be allocated as the following. To simply create the bowl blank, I find I can do that for each blank in the range of 10 to 30 minutes. The bowl's design can be applied in generally 5 to 10 minutes. Rough carving a modest-sized salad bowl requires anywhere from 35 to 50 minutes. Reflattening the newly dried bowls, usually 5 to 15 minutes. Final carving that bowl is similarly 40 to 60 minutes. Primary sanding on a simple bowl is in the range of 20 to 60 minutes. The final sequence of that, repair, leveling, sanding in the final form, quality control, all that takes around 20 to 45 minutes if done efficiently and if there are not any significant anomalies in the wood needing special attention. Applying the finish is fairly quick. It's around 15 minutes spread over the 3 coats that we apply, with multiple rubbings after each coat. Other finishes obviously can be faster or slower. For me, the biggest difference in time between working on a lathe and carving is sanding. This rises with complex bowl designs and with some woods. This starts with coarse sanding, which can be classified as a shaping step, as it includes removing undulations and surfaces and getting the walls to equal thickness, issues that you don't necessarily have to do on the lathe because of the lathe's action. I would usually take 4 to 10 bowls through the post-drying steps together because once I set myself up to do a task, doing it repetitively is more efficient. The result is that while I can proceed quickly and efficiently, I relish the opportunity to consider different shapes, and I will turn over a bowl design in my mind, often spread across several days before finalizing it. During the carving and sanding steps, I will still be discovering embellishments and nuances that may be fun to introduce during each step as I'm doing those steps. This extended fun is only possible because I rest comfortably on the mathematical certainty that these steps will produce a visually accurate shape and that all the features I add will be properly oriented to the bowl. I hope these steps can create a path for you to have fun in an unbounded creative approach to bowl making. Choose a set of tools you like and go have fun. Finally, let me know when you discover improvements to my process and tell me what you make. And thanks for watching.